Star softball season last year. Lost actual first game, but it was close. It was worth it. Soccer got a little rough start. One districts my freshman year, sophomore year, school actually. Junior year started out rough, we had to go got hurt. But we won our last year, okay, so finally started once again a little bit. You know, a few more weeks this year. A little bit more exciting rates here, but it's definitely been. The goal is Spanish for biology. But that will take a lot of time when school is, but yeah,
I'll be very much college.
So I'm not quite sure. It is so I plan on it to be right, but spill it out. So stay either like here or south, but no content. We were very
I'm honored today to introduce Sarah Plum, who's the Director of Communications for Concerns of the Eastern Environment. And fortunately, I know life's always busy, but it's been really busy. It's with National Police Week, and she still agreed to come and speak today a little bit about C.O.P.S. Sarah's a former member of Rotary, and I think they've been on it, they've been at the table here today about coming back. But she was a member when she first joined C.O.P.S all the way back when we still met at kindergarten. But Sarah always makes me feel a little bit old, unknowingly, but it's just funny how your lives, you know, can get intermingled at times. Her college sorority roommate, student of mine at South Shelby Middle School when I was on. So Sarah, thank you very much for coming today. Please welcome Sarah.
I'll give you guys these. Yes, I remember back in 2013, 2014, when you guys met at Old Kinderhook and we did lunch, and there were only, at that point, C.O.P.S had 9 employees. And so we started growing very rapidly, and it got to be actually too much for me to even leave the office. David was there, he knows, he's worked with us with HR stuff. So now we have 31 employees over at the C.O.P.S National Office. If you've driven over by our office, you've seen that we did an addition, and we've already outgrown that addition. So you'll be seeing more construction hopefully in the next 5 years, because we desperately need it. But I used to love coming, we met at lunch, but now knowing that this has changed to morning, I was talking to him and the guys at my table that this could probably be doable for me to maybe come back, because the morning works very well for us. So hopefully I'm going to talk to Diane and we'll get us back here. Like Tim said, we are getting ready to travel out to Washington, D.C. We go out there May 7th through 17th, and we host National Police Week. That's what people don't realize, is that Concerns of Police Survivors is actually the national office right here in Camden. We have 55 chapters all across the nation that are operated by survivors themselves, but we're the only business entity of C.O.P.S. For those of you, raise your hand if you've never heard of C.O.P.S or know what we do. Awesome. Okay, so everybody knows. But so when I first started, we were able to say that on average, about 140 to 160 officers die each year in the line of duty. Unfortunately, that actually is not correct. My very first police week, we honored 107 officers in DC. This year, we're honoring 563. COVID has taken its toll. cancer deaths from 9/11 are still happening every year. So NYPD sends about 120 of those officers each year. So we have a big feat in front of us. We've made a lot of changes to Police Week. We're excited because we're going to host the event at the Washington Hilton, which is really cool because that's where the president's prayer breakfast is hosted. That's where the first day luncheon is hosted. So now for Police Week and for cops coming from Camden, Missouri to go out there and host one of their biggest events, it's a huge deal. We're sad that we exist, but I'm grateful that we do. I've been there over 10 years. I come from Kansas City. I'm from Independence, where I was a member of Rotary there, and I loved it. So that's what get involved. Local events that we host right here in Camden is we have mainly golf tournaments. We'd like to get creative and host maybe some more 5Ks. Everyone keeps telling me to do a poker run. I don't know the first thing about a poker run to get that started, but we'd love to have more local community involvement. Our golf tournament is the one in June is hosted at Lake Valley, and that's in honor of Susie Sawyer, which I know a lot of people in this room know who she is. She is our founder, and that's how C.O.P.S got started. We used to be in the DC area. Susie's husband Buzz was a police officer, and I don't know the exact year. I want to say it was 1978. Buzz was a police officer, and Susie was a member of the auxiliary, which is for the wives of police officers. And a 14-year-old boy was arrested for theft, and they took him to the precinct and they were fingerprinting him, and he was freaking out because they were going to call his mother. So he got a hold of one of the officers' guns, shot him, and then shot the person that came to help. So right there in the precinct, they lost 2 officers, and Susie says that her auxiliary group started calling each other because they didn't know who it was. And they realized that there really wasn't anything for the families just yet. So a year after the funeral, Susie went to the chief and wanted to check on the wife and the child and one of the officers that had been killed. The other officer was single. But the chief said, well, I think she's doing okay because I gave her my business card at the funeral. And I said, call me if anything, and she haven't called. And so Susie was like, that's just not okay. So we have an awesome picture, and you guys are all welcome to come to our office. I'll give you a tour because there's a lot of pictures that explain our history. But there's this awesome picture of Susie where she literally has a poster board and she's sitting at a table, and she had written on the poster board what C.O.P.S was and why we need support. And so to see her from that grassroots, next to nothing, operating for free, to what we have now. We have a federal grant that gives us just over $3 million, and then we match that with our fundraising efforts. To see what we've grown to is incredible. Have you guys heard of Law Enforcement Appreciation Day? That's kind of grown. It's January 9th. So that started right here. That started when Ferguson happened. There was so much anger, especially in Missouri, with it happened to Ferguson, and we wanted to shed the positive light on law enforcement and let them know that we support them. And that started right here at our office. And now it has grown to, I think we have 37 states that have officially made that a holiday. So that's pretty cool to see. That's what everybody always asks me what my greatest achievement is. And Law Enforcement Appreciation Day is definitely up there because I was a part of that. And coming from our hometown is just incredible. Other local efforts that we do, I know, Tim, are you still on our scholarship committee?
Yeah, I got a meeting this afternoon.
Well, there you go. Keeping you busy in your retirement. So we offer scholarships to surviving children and spouses. Whatever the state that their officer was killed in, if the state doesn't provide their education loans, then we will pick up the remainder of that. We also offer counseling services to spouses and children, and then we have retreats, which is our hands-on programs for every survivorship. So spouses go to spouse retreat, parents go to parent retreat, kids can. There's literally something for everyone. But we started realizing we even have extended family for the grandparents, aunts, uncles, the cousins, because we were finding that a lot of officers were raised by their aunt or uncle. And when they die, basically their parent, even though it's aunt or uncle, because of the stipulations, there was nowhere for them to go. They had to basically rerun. So we were like, this isn't right. So extended family has grown. And then we also have for coworkers. in the early years of C.O.P.S, it was all about the survivors. And as we've grown and we've gotten more funding, we've been able to do more of that preventive piece. And we've really focused on law enforcement wellness. So we have 9 commons of law enforcement trainings that happen all across the nation. Our biggest one was we hosted one at NYPD. We had over 500 attendees there. I think Amy went to, but and she can attest to it too. The traumas of law enforcement are one of the coolest trainings because you see these coworkers that, officers are told, get out there, even if their coworker is shot, they're expected the next day to get out there, put on their uniform and act like nothing. And that is not healthy at all. And so we're kind of breaking the barrier on that we're starting the conversation. We've also seen a lot of suicide, unfortunately, with law enforcement. Law enforcement suicide triples line of duty death each year. So we're really starting that conversation, and Biden just passed a law in August that if there was notable PTSD in a law enforcement officer's career and they do end up taking their own lives, that C.O.P.S can now provide services to their family. So that's a big deal. I know this is a lot of morbid topics. Before I was at C.O.P.S, I didn't realize how prevalent this was happening, but it's there. And unfortunately, our media is, you hear about it probably every week. Missouri's been hit hard. Kansas City has been hit hard. St. Louis has been hit hard. So, but we're there. And our survivors at the grassroots level, they're the ones that when an officer dies, they go to that agency and they help them plan the funeral. They go to the family and say, when you're ready to talk, I want you to know that I've been through it. So really, the heart of C.O.P.S is the peer support, survivors and survivors. So that's what I'm excited most about with National Police Week coming up, is that is where, so 2023, every officer that died in 2022, and actually prior to that, because we literally had to cut it off to make space. That's been such a big year, but that is where we will honor their officer. And this is the first time that a lot of the surviving families are going to meet each other. We have kids and teens program there, and it's this is, and I'll leave you with it because it's my favorite thing. So kids and teens, we're at the hotel, and this is age 6 to 17, and they're clinging to their surviving parents like that. Oftentimes they've never left their parent before since their other parent was killed. And they're not want to leave, they're crying, where we have ways to get them off their parents and get them with counselors. And then when they come back after 8 hours, they go and do fun activities, they have counseling sessions. And then when they come back at 4:30, they're clinging to their new best friend. They don't want to go with their parents because, and you hear them say it'll sound morbid coming, but it's so cool that they're like, their dad was shot too. Because they never had that. They go to school after the funeral and everybody, all talking, oh, that's the sad kid. That's the kid that cried. We don't know what's going on. Like, oh, their dad was killed. They're with people. And then they go to kids camp. And then for the rest of their lives, they have this family that surround them. So that all happens right here out of Camden. So pretty cool. And if you haven't been over to our office, I encourage you to come over, ask for me, Sarah's Road, and I'll give you a hint. Any questions?
You some scholarships for this.
Yes, yep, that's the committee that Tim sits on, and we a lot of times the donors, they want to always give to like the kids, and so the scholarship fund is in really good shape. And the thing though, when an officer dies, usually the state has some kind of education benefit, and then there is a federal benefit as well. And so whatever those benefits do not cover for that child or spouse, we will pick up.
I have a comment, Cindy Sawyer, she used to be a member years ago, and in fact, she was sergeant in arms there. And she made us show out a lot of job.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, when we do live auction, we get Susie to stand up and talk, and she will go as far as reaching into your pockets herself and pulling out your wallet. So she's fun. So yeah, that's why we do that golf tournament at her home course at Lake Valley. She plays her friends. She's a snowbird now, so she lives in Harlingen, Texas, 6 months out of the year, but then she comes back to her cabin here. She's awesome. And then we have another golf tournament coming up in August that we host Osage National. So everybody. But
I know the firefighters have national organizations Are there other national organizations that do what you do? If so, do they have a partner on anything?
So the closest one that does what we do is C.O.P.S, which is on the military side. So we actually, when C.O.P.S was being started, Susie was friends with that founder and they kind of mirrored each other. So, yeah,
They're doing things together for all first responders at all.
you know, not together, we should.
Just wondered if
Yeah, we have donors, like we have a Jeep event that's called Call for the Fallen, and that's sponsored by Off-Road United, and they have a huge event that they serve fire, police, and military. Yeah,
Sarah, when did C.O.P.S start offering benefits for illnesses related to service that accidents, you know? And it's is, you know, a specific event with illnesses.
right, yeah, so sadly, in the last like 5 years, the cancer related deaths, those started in 2017, so 6 years. Because that's when we started to see the uptick in people attending Complete Week, which is awesome. And sadly, those were delayed because of federal benefits that the funds just weren't there, but with many people lobbying for that to happen. COVID at first was not going to be covered, and then we started to see, I mean, unfortunately, when we were all like in our homes, we know the medical staff out there, they couldn't get home. That was the same for law enforcement, and it was the invisible threat that they would pull people over, they didn't know. And so we saw parts video, we're still seeing it. Now with the vaccine, those are going to start going down. That if it was your choice not to get the vaccine and you die in the line of duty, they are not. The mental health piece, like I said, just this August, which is incredible to start that conversation and show. We are a little bit worried about that piece because we don't want it to be an incentive. That is someone that's already severely depressed, even from outside of their law enforcement career. We don't want that to be an incentive for officers to take their own lives, knowing that their families will get that federal benefit. So, and the federal benefit, I mean, it's high, it's over 400,000, which, when you look at the scope of things, when a law enforcement officer dies, that money doesn't last very long. But it's on the one salary. So, yeah, we're worried about that. That stems from the January 6th. There were 3 officers that took their own lives after that, and so their wives lobbied to have this. Yeah. But we're grateful for it because we just want to support everyone.
Sure.
Michael.